Bootstrap 5 was released a few weeks back. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you some theming tips and tricks using Bootstrap and Sass. Now, what is Bootstrap? Bootstrap is the most popular CSS framework for building websites. Bootstrap speeds up development for your sites. Now, the disadvantage of using Bootstrap is that the UI of the components is average looking. Now, what is Sass? Sass is a CSS preprocessor language. It has features like ability to write functions and variables. It's used for styling complex designs. Now, using Bootstrap and Sass, we can create above average UI designs and have better control and management of our style sheets in the app. Hopefully, you will find some very good, useful tips and tricks in this tutorial. So what we're going to be building today is this simple holiday website. Now, as you can see, it's got a header and a main body. So in the header, we have a sort of a curvature to the bottom edge. Now, it's not a normal straight edge. It's also got a background image and also a two-color gradient, which is transparent. As you can see, it's a blue and a green. In the content area, we have a transparent background, which is also a green color, and there are blue buttons. And so the blue is the primary color, and the green is the secondary color. Now, what we're going to do is with Sass, we're going to change the variables to change the colors, and that will give us control over the theming and the look and feel of the website. So this should be a very good exercise. Okay, let's dive into some code. Okay, what I'm looking at here is the code for defining the primary and secondary color. So as you can see, the primary is blue and the secondary is bright green. Okay, now if I change this to a gray color, hold on, good. Save that. There you go. It's changed. As you can see, the content area is gray now, but the primary color of the buttons and the gradient on the left hand side is still blue. So we changed one color and it's changed the look and feel to the site. So if I change that to a green, let's just see. Green, and save that. You see the buttons have changed to green, and also the header gradient on the left hand side is green. Let's just take it to see an orange. Let's see what an orange looks like. Orange. And let's have another color cyan. Let's see the cyan. Okay, so it's given. So as we're changing the variables, it's giving it, we're changing the color. It's giving it a different look and feel to it, and that's the power of Sass and how useful it is in theming. Okay, let's start diving into the new features of Bootstrap 5. Now, one of the main differences is they've dropped jQuery in favor of JavaScript. They've added CSS custom properties, which is basically variables that you can use in your CSS style sheet. You create the variables and you can use it all throughout your style sheet. Also, there is something called Utilities API now. Utilities API is like a toolkit that you can use throughout your website, and the way you use it is like you define a class, and that class will be associated with a property. So here W is associated with width, and then you can have an array of values. that you can give like 25, 50, 75, 100, and it will be associated with the percentage of that value, like 25%, 50%. So you can give any set of values depending on how you want to customize your site, and you can create these utilities for virtually any sort of property. Also, they made some changes to the grid system. They've added extra large breakpoint. Also, they made some changes to how the gutter sizing is done. It's done through the utilities, where you can define the various values on how to apply the gutter spacing, so which is quite handy. For this tutorial, we'll be coding in Visual Code. Visual Code has many features like a built-in web server, which makes the coding much easier. You can go to their website, code.visualstudio.com/download, and you should be able to get different versions. You should be able to download it from there. Second thing that you need is Node.js. Node.js allows you to install all sorts of plugins and libraries for your projects, including Bootstrap. You can go to their website, which is nodejs.org/en/download, and you should be able to get the particular download for your particular OS. Once you have installed Node.js and Visual Code, we can start coding. To start our project, we need to create a folder. So I'm going to go to the desktop and create a new folder called Holiday Site, and press enter. And I'm going to go into Visual Code and select Open Folder. Now we're not doing Open File, we're doing Open Folder. And then select our holiday site, and that should open our folder. And in the left hand toolbar we should see the holiday site folder, and we should be able to create new file. With your folder in place now, we should be able to create a new HTML file for our project. So if you go next to your folder name, there should be a little icon for new file. If you click on that and then just type in index.html, and you should get a blank page. Okay, now you can type in shift and exclamation mark and press tab, and you should get a blank HTML markup. And if you go under body and just type in hello and save. Okay, now we've saved it. Now we want to test this out on our server. Now VS Code comes with a web server. Usually it's preloaded, but you can go to the extensions icon on the left hand side. You click on extensions and just type in live server. Okay, so it will tell you if you select it, it will say for me I've already installed it, but if it wasn't installed, it would say it will give you the option to install. So if you don't have live server, then install it now. Now I want to close this extensions tab and get rid of this extensions sidebar. So click on the Explorer. Okay, now that we have our server set up, we should be able to test it now with our test HTML page. So if I go to index.html and right click on it, and I should get an option to open with live server. So I'm going to open this page in the live server. So if I click OK, it should open up a page on the right hand side in the browser. Okay, so it's opened up my index.html and it says the word hello. Now if I change words, say add some extra text to it, how are you, and click save, and you see that it has updated the page. Okay, so that's working. Okay, the next step would be to initialize our holidays site folder to make it into a Node.js application. To do that, we need to go to Terminal and create a new terminal window. Now you'll see a new terminal window here. I can enlarge it. Okay, so you will notice that we're in the directory of our holiday site. So the command that we need to type in is npm init -y. Now this would initialize it as a Node.js application. Okay, so it's done all that. Okay, next we're gonna install Bootstrap. Okay, let me just make some space here. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to the terminal and type in npm npm install Bootstrap at next, and also --save. Now that should install Bootstrap. Now if I just bring back the sidebar. Okay, now under my folder, now I've got if I go into the package.json, I should have new entry there for Bootstrap. So that means the Bootstrap module is loaded. Now the last thing that we need to install is a module called node-sass. Now this will allow us to convert our Sass files into CSS. So to work with the Bootstrap Sass files, we need this to convert. Okay, so back to our terminal screen, and we go type in npm install node-sass --save. Okay, and press enter. This may take a few minutes depending on how fast your machine is. Okay, it's loaded. Now, if we go back into a sidebar and click on refresh and open up nodes modules, okay, we would see a lot of other directories which we don't need to be concerned about. What we need to be concerned about is the Bootstrap directory. If you go there, okay, so under the Bootstrap directory, we need to drill down into the SCSS directory. Here you will find all the Bootstrap Sass files. They're the configuration files that you need to do your theming. Now, if we go down, we're concerned with two particular files, and they are the bootstrap.scss and _variables.scss. Okay, I just wanted to show you that, but we're not going to do anything with that at the moment. So if you go back to the top and collapse all the folders, then you don't, you know, you don't, you want to remove all the clutter. Now we should be able to go back into the package.json. Okay, now we've got node-sass loaded as well, so that's a good thing. Okay, next thing is we need to tell our application to convert our SAS files into CSS files. In order to do that, we need to put in a configuration under the scripts. Okay, so we need to go to the end of the line where it says test echo. You go right at the end of that line, put in a comma, press enter, and open inverted commas, and put in SCSS, close inverted commas, and it's a colon, and space, open inverted commas again, and it's node-sass, then space, dash watch, space, ./SCSS space dash O space ./ then it's CSS. So what we're saying here is run this command node-sass, and we need it to watch this directory SCSS, and whatever we find in that directory, we need to output it, that's the -O, to the CSS directory. So whenever you make changes to the SAS files, it will automatically detect the changes and convert it for us. So that's done. Okay, now we made the changes to our package.json. We need to just save it now. So control save. Okay, now we mentioned in the configuration that we needed two directories, SCSS and CSS directory. So now what we need to do is go to the sidebar where our directories are, and you always make sure you collapse all the directories so you know where you are. So now we know we're in the root, so we click on a new folder and we say SCSS and press enter. Okay, so then you click away from there and then click on new folder again, and we say CSS. Okay, so now we have two folders that we just created, so CSS and SCSS. Okay, so when we run this command, it shouldn't give any errors. So we can create a dummy. Okay, under SCSS, we can create a blank style sheet. So we just call it main.scss. So we need to give it this name, main.scss. Sorry. Okay, press enter. Okay, now that we have created our main.scss file, we can test out our SAS utility. So we go into the terminal window and run, npm run SCSS. Okay, now if I press enter, okay, so you get this this message saying that node-sass, so it's running this command now. So now if I go back into my main.scss file and put in a simple style sheet, say body, curly brackets, press enter, background, color, I want to give it a red, and press save. So now what it's saying is it's written a CSS file to that directory. So it's written a main.css file to the CSS directory. So if we go into the CSS directory and we created our style sheet here. Okay, so every time we make changes to the main.scss file and save it, we will get a new version of main.css. Now the next part of the problem is to link the main.css to our index.html, and that's what we're going to do now. So if I go into the index.html and under the head put a link to the CSS, so the directory is, the path is ./css/main.css. So we're linking the main.css into our HTML, and we save it. Okay, if I bring the browser up now, you'll see that our website has got a red background. Now if I go into the main.scss file and change it again, just to test that it's working, so go change the background to a green and save. Okay, so that's changed. Now you would have also saw that there was a message that it's saved the main.css there. So it's always good to have a little peek on the terminal screen just to make sure there's no errors there. Okay, next we're going to go back into the index.html and just make some changes here in the title. We're going to put in holidays adventure, holiday adventures, and gonna get rid of this, and we're gonna put in a sort of a simple structure: header, main, and footer. So it's header, tab, footer, main, one main, and footer. Okay. Okay, now we're gonna add a navigation bar under the header. Now, what we can do is what I'm gonna do is go into the Bootstrap documentation for version 5. That's the full URL, and on the sidebar I've got components. I'll click on components and I go down and I want a nav bar. Okay, I want to mark up for a nav bar. Now there's quite a few markups. What we're looking for is a very basic one. I'm not too sure whether is this. No, we don't want that one. Just want a very basic one. Okay, I think. Right, I think this is the one. Okay, so we're going to be using this simple navigation bar, and we're going to add the background image to this. And well, it's not going to function like this because we're not adding the JavaScript on this particular project, but it will be responsive but it won't slide out like this. Okay, so just gonna copy the markup. So just click on that, copy. I'm just gonna place it under my header and paste. Press save. And so I've got the markup there. Okay, so at the moment we got the markup for the navigation, but there's no styling to it. So the next thing that we need to do is bring in Bootstrap into our project and use the Bootstrap modules to style our navigation bar. Okay, that's what we're going to do next. So we go into the sidebar and select nodes modules directory and expand it out, and we should see Bootstrap down the list. I think I missed it. Okay, so you see Bootstrap and you open up Bootstrap. Then you have 3 directories there, dist.js and SCSS. We need SCSS, so expand that out. Okay, then we need to, within that directory, we need to go right near the bottom and we will see bootstrap.scss. Now there's one called bootstrap.css. We don't want CSS, we want SCSS. Okay, so inside there you will see all the modules that you need for the Bootstrap, the full version. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy this and we're gonna take out things that we don't need. I mean, there's an awful lot of things that we're not gonna use, like tables and transitions, and I think we're not gonna use drop down. And then there's breadcrumbs, pagination, but there's an awful lot of things that we don't need. So we need to copy it onto the root directory of our project. Okay, so if I right click on it, copy, okay, and then if I go right to the top and click on collapse on the folder, on my folder bar, so if I do collapse, then I'll close everything and come to the root. So I need to right click and paste. Okay, so, and I'll just give it rename it to right click and rename, and I'll just give it a we call it custom Bootstrap. Okay, then that's okay, so we renamed it. Now we need to do some cleaning. So we need to get rid of things that we don't need. Okay, I'm gonna go through this list. So we need all the functions. These are sort of basic requirements. You need functions, variables, mixins, and utilities. Now the root and reboot, you need that. That's basic CSS styling that you need. So I'm going to delete type. I don't need images. I need containers. So just bring that up. I need grid. I don't need tables for this project. I don't need forms. I need buttons. I don't need transitions. Drop down, I don't need drop down. button group. I don't need button group. I need nav bar. I need card. Breadcrumb I don't need. I don't need pagination. Badge. Don't need badge. Alert. I don't need alert. Don't need progress. Don't need list group. Don't need close. Need toast. Model. Tooltip. Popover. Carousel spinners. So I don't need all this. Okay, so then helpers. I don't need helpers. Okay, and I need utilities. So I'm going to use the utilities. So, so if I do save, okay, so I'm just going to save that now. Now we've got a simplified Bootstrap configuration. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to move the custom bootstrap.scss into the SCSS directory. So we just drag it in there. Say move. Yep. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is go back into the package.json. Now we're going to change this SAS utility setting. Okay, we told the SAS to watch this particular directory for SAS files and convert it to CSS and put it into this directory. So we need to now specifically say that we need SAS to look at main.scss because we've got two files in there, so it's going to get confused. So we're just going to put in /main.scss. So save that. Okay, so once that's saved, right, we go back into the main.scss and we need to just put a space there. I don't need to, we just get rid of that. Okay, so now we put in import inverted commas, and it's we want to bring in a custom bootstrap, custom underscore bootstrap, and then press enter and save. Okay, now we're going to go back into the terminal and run the SAS. So it's npm run scss. So just to let you know that there's going to be some errors there. We know, and I'll just go through that with you. Okay, so I'm just going to make some changes for the error to come up. So if I do a okay, I need to put a semicolon there, and also just put in a simple styling body and background color green. Do save. Okay, so we got the error now. I'm just going to maximize that. Okay, so what it's saying is it's file to import not found or unreadable. So it's trying to look for this file functions. Right now, it's looking in it's found custom bootstrap.scss, and on line 11 it has a reference to a file called functions. So if I go into customs and so I'm in customs bootstrap and I'm looking at line 11, and it's saying it's trying to find this function. Okay, the reason why it's not found that particular functions file is because we copied the bootstrap.scss file content from the modules bootstrap SCSS, so we copied it from here. So this file name is referring to local to that directory. So what we need to do is we're in here at the moment, so we need to go back one directory and point it to the SCSS directory in the Bootstrap. Okay, so what we need to do is // it's node _modules / bootstrap / and SCSS and /. Now when I save this, we should get another error message saying that it can't find this. So it shouldn't say it can't find functions. So if I do save, okay, now it's saying it's a different error message. So you got to be aware of the error message that is coming up. So now it's saying formatted error file to import not found or unreadable. So now the file name is variables on line 12. So line 12 is that. So I'm going to do the same thing again, copy the same path, copy, paste on there and save. Now it should come up with mixins. So we've got mixins. So I'm going to do that, save. So it's coming up with utilities. So we need to just keep pasting that same directory because we know we're doing the right thing. So do it for all of them. And okay, card and on. Oops. Okay, so now it shouldn't give any errors. Okay, so we know Bootstrap is loaded now because the menu bar has been styled, and like I said, it's not going to have the sliding menu, so it's this button is not going to work. It's always going to display vertically on smaller screens, and if I enlarge it, it will have full length. Okay, so one more thing that we need to be, well, it's more of a tip that we can, when we want to run the SCSS script, we can go to npm scripts at the bottom here, and we can run that script from there. The next thing that we need to do is we need to copy the variables.scss file from the Bootstrap directory. So we go back into the Bootstrap directory and go into SCSS, and if we go down right to the bottom, we look for variables and right click, copy, and we need to just copy it inside, or just right click and paste it on the sidebar somewhere. Okay, so, and I just move it into the SCSS directory and say move, so that way I know that it's inside that directory. Sometimes it's a bit confusing where you paste it. Okay, so I'm going to rename that to rename to custom. Just click away. So we've got custom variables now, so we need to link that into main.scss. So I will do at import variables, custom variables, custom variables. Okay, and semicolon. Let's save. Okay, so we haven't had any errors in here. So if I go into variables, and this is where Bootstrap has all its settings for the colors. It's got theme colors for primary, secondary, and all the other UI components. It's got different shades of all the colors, and these are variables that you put into that you use in the SAS files. So it's got some gradient functions there, and these are like spaces for your columns. It's got link colors, and it's got this is the breakpoints for your responsive grid. So it's got extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. So these are the breakpoints: 576 pixels for small, 768 for large, medium, then 992 for large. So you can change these to your preference. So if you want to change the medium size to 800, then you just change it here. So you also got the container widths there. Oops, I've gone fast. So you got the container width. It's got the grid columns. So border radius, border shadow, some animation stuff there. So it's got an awful lot of things that you can control. So button, import, form elements. So you can customize virtually anything to your preference by changing a few variables from here. Now, if I go back and up, let's just pick something from the top. Okay, so we just let's say we want the background to be blue. Okay, so if I go into my main.sass CSS and we change that to a blue and save, so the background has changed to blue. So so if I go back into variables, so virtually you can use all these variables in your CSS, and you can override these. So that's what we're going to be doing. Before we do anything else, let's do some cleanup on our markup. Okay, I'm just going to go back to the header, sorry, the navbar, and I'm going to take out the navbar, the button. Okay, this is the markup for the button, because we're not going to use the button. Let me just go back. Okay, we're not going to use this button because it doesn't work, because we did not load the JavaScript, and we're not going to do it for this project. So I'm going to take this out, and there is a link to it, and there's a button. So I'm just going to take both of them out. Save. Okay, just have a look at the markup. I mean the in the browser. So refresh. Okay, the button's gone now. Okay, next thing that we need is a picture for our background. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to a website called pixels.com, and okay, and I'm gonna in the search bar I'm gonna type in Archie, ARCHIE. Okay, and press enter. Okay, now I'm gonna click on users now because it's a particular photographer that I'm after. So it's Archie Benar Mira. Okay, so if you click on Archie, and these are all his photographs, so I need to find one right at the end. So if I go all the way down to the bottom, okay, and there is a photograph of this man standing in front of the mountain. Okay, so this is going to be the photograph that we're going to be using. So if I do free download, so it's downloaded. Okay, so I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go back into Visual Code and go and open file. Right, now I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and okay, this is the file that we just downloaded, man wearing white shirt. Okay, so I'm just going to drag that into my sidebar. That's the easiest way you can bring in files. Okay, so I'll close that open file. Okay, now what I need to do is to right click and rename. I'm going to rename it to header image. Press enter. Okay, so we got the file in there. Okay, so now we need to go back into main.scss. Now that we got the image downloaded and renamed, we can attach it to the navbar. Now we want to attach it to the navbar, so let me just quickly check the markup. So it should be navbar, but just want to check. Okay, so the class is navbar. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna So now that we got the image downloaded and renamed, we need to attach it to the navbar now. So the class of this is the nav. I think it's navbar. It should be navbar. So we're going to target the. Okay, so yep, it's the navbar. Okay, so done that. Okay, so I can just add it there. Dot navbar. Going to be background image, and the URL is URL. It's header image dot jpg. Save that. so I think it should be dot dot dash thing. Okay, so we got the image in there now. Okay, because I didn't put the, because we're in SCSS directory, we need to go back one directory because it's in the root. So I just because we placed it in the root, we had to put in extra bit. Okay, so we're also going to make the height, give it a height of 300 pixels. Okay, and now the image is around, let me just see the image. The image is quite a large image. I think it's something like 4,000 pixels wide or something like that, something very large. Let me just check the size. Image. The image is there. Okay, the size is 6,004 by 4,000. Okay, so it's a very large image, and it's placed it right on the top, and it's not gonna, we're only seeing like a small portion of it. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to position it center. So background position, and we want center that. Okay, so it's centered the image, right? So now we need to resize it so that it fits the header. So we need a background size, right, and we need cover, so that should resize it. Okay, so it's resized it, zoomed out, and it's fit the whole header. So that's what we want. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing is adding a gradient to our nav bar, which is going to be from the left to the right. It's going to be a primary color on the left, and it gradually goes into a secondary color, which is a green. Okay, so we're gonna be working with the custom variables now. So just notice there's an error there. I think see, what we've done is we've included the custom variables after all the Bootstrap modules were loaded. Now, for testing purposes, that was okay, but we have to get rid of this error. We need to include that inside the custom Bootstrap file. So I need to delete that to save. Okay, then go into Bootstrap, custom Bootstrap, and we need to just expand this out. Okay, so this is here it's loading the variables from the nodes modules Bootstrap SCSS directory. So we can just comment that out so that we know we changed it, and below it just gonna put import and inverted commas, and it's gonna be custom just variables. And looks right. Okay, there's no errors now. Okay, so we go back into our main.css. Okay, so we're gonna add a gradient now. Okay, so before we do that, we look inside, go back into the variables again. Okay, so we need to find, there is a, we'll go control find, and okay, I think, and type in gradient, and we want to search for it. So it's found, it's not that one. Yeah, so it's found this at line 229. So in this section here. Okay, so there is a variable for gradient, okay, which outputs this property, this CSS property. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just copy that, okay, and we're gonna bring it into the, we're gonna use that, but we're gonna call it something else. We're gonna call it header gradient. Okay, now we're gonna change. Okay, this gradient property is it's producing a gradient of 180 degrees. Now we want 90 degrees. Oops. And we want to, let me just, yep, 90 degrees, that's what we want. Okay, we're going to change that to primary color. And we're going to change that to secondary color, and then we're going to give that a point 0.5, a 0.5. Okay, so this, in the gradient property you have you know, the format is you give a degree, you give an angle of how the gradient should flow. You can give it at an angle, so it flows in a diagonal way, or in 90 degrees is horizontal. And the RGB color is a transparency color, so you can say if this is blue, then the 0.5 says have a transparency or opacity of 0.5, so it's transparent. So it's the same with the secondary color. So we've got two colors with opacity. Okay, now we're going to use that in our navbar, right? So before we do that, we don't want the background image, so that we know what we're doing. Okay, so it's background, just one background, and we're just gonna put in the header gradient variable. Okay, so let's see what that brings. Okay, so now we've got a primary color and secondary color gradient, so the gradient has worked. Now if I go into custom, we want to go into custom variables. Okay, if I go into custom variables, now I should be able to see, okay, around about line 600, this is where we've defined what colors we want to use for primary and secondary. So the secondary is a gray 600. So if I change that to a green and do a save, so we have a transparent background with blue to a green. Okay, so this should be okay, so if I go back to my main.css and we change that to a 1, so it's gone lighter, so the opacity is working. So if I change that to a 9, so it becomes darker. So it's the same with this. If I change that to a 1, so it's very faint. Okay, so if I change that to a 9, B, okay, so the transparency is working. So I'll change that to a 5 and change that to a 5. Okay, so we know that's working. Now we need to put the image back up, so we will cut that out and cut it out and put it at the top. Okay, now we're gonna put the image back here, so I can do a comma and URL and open brackets, and it's dot slash header dash image dot jpg. Okay, so that if I do a save, yeah, so the image is back up now. So let me just right. Now I moved the background styling to the top, because otherwise these the image sizing and positioning won't apply. So you have to apply after the image has been set. Okay, so I can just have a right. Okay, what we can do now is we can play around with the gradient. Now in the gradient you have basically in this you got like I think 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. The first section is the angle. Then there's another section for the first color, and then another section for the second color, and okay, I think so yeah, sorry, it's 3 sections. So the angle, the primary color, and the secondary color. Now, and inside that is a transparent color because we're applying an opacity to that. So what I'm going to do is what we can do is we can also specify the percentage of color that we want. Like for the primary color, say I want the percentage where the color should end. So if I say 2%, so I want it to start from 2%, and also I want the secondary color to put a space there, because I think I've got to be aware of the open brackets. So I'll put in a let's say 60%. Okay, let's just see what that brings. Okay, so it's right. So if I change that to I didn't say okay. Okay, so it's sort of you got larger percentage there and smaller percentage there. So And what else I can do is, so that's sort of 60%, and that is 2% sort of thing. Okay, so what else I can do is I want to make this lighter, so that I want to decrease the opacity. So if I play around with this, say I want to, so that's become a bit more clearer. So I can increase that to 3. So I can, yeah, I think I put 335, and that might be okay. So yeah, so it's got a sort of a more of a clearer transparent green there. So it's not that sort of fuzzy. So it's much clearer. Okay, so that's so you can play around with the opacity and the gradient percentage of how much you want. So the first primary color is like 2%, and the rest is 60%. So it starts from 60%. And okay, next we're gonna add in the curved border that's gonna go at the bottom edge. Now the way we're gonna do this is to add a clip path, is like a vector path. Now you can use this graphics package, or you can go online, and I found this clip path generator. So if you do Google search on clip path generator, and you get this bennettfeely.com clippy. If you click on there, and I just enlarge it, okay, you've got this canvas where you draw your shapes. So this, whenever you move this, the path will change. So the green coordinates. So if you watch the green, when I pull the green point, and the green number changes. So if you pull the yellow number changes. So these are the coordinates of the points. So what we need is a curve. So before we do that, I'm going to make this as big as possible. Let me just say 2000. Okay, the largest is width is 1084. So I just make that 100. We just want a small height. Okay, so we need to find a curve, and I think this is the best one, Eclipse, because there's no other one that is circle. Don't want circle, yeah, Eclipse. So with Eclipse, so you can adjust the height radius and the width radius. So what I found is if I drag it to the far left corner and give it 100% radius on the horizontally, then if I take it to 50%, you can see where the coordinates there. So when I take it to 50%, then from there I just give it 100% height. So we've got 100% width and height for this. And now if I pull it up, okay, so this is the curve that we want. Now we can just copy this, copy. So but you can play around with different shapes, and see what you can have different effects. So I just right click this again and copy, So this is what we're going to use in our CSS style. Okay. So I'll go back into my holidays and I just paste it there. Do a save. There you go. That's perfect. Okay, next we need to revisit the menu bar. Okay, so we need to move this up to the top. So what we need to do is, okay, let's go back into the markup. Okay, so it's the markup is, okay, so it's a nav bar with a container fluid. Okay, what we can do is we can make this a flex box and then move it, align it to the top. So if I go back into the variables, I can quickly show, right, variables, let me see, find flex, let me see if there's any flex box. I think it's in, okay, so we can look into the utilities. Let me just see, farm, nodes, Bootstrap. I think this, utilities. See if there's any flex box in here. Let me see. Find flex box. Flex direction. Okay, we we found. Okay, in the utilities there is a flex classes that we can add. So there is a flex. So flex, no flex there, flex direction, flex grow, flex shrink. So to add a flex, we just do we just add a flex responsive property. Okay, flex direction, and we want we want to say, okay, so I think it's display. Let me see, display one, display. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so we can give a display property and give it a flex. I think it's flex there. So yeah, so here you're using a class D, and it'll be a dash and flex. So that's so you put the class and the values will be separated by a dash. So D dash flex should give us a flex element. Then we also need to align it. Flex alignment, right? Flex. And if I go down, okay, flex direction, flex alignment, flex alignment, align. Okay, flex items and start. Okay, so align items start. So line items dash start should be okay. So it's if we go back, I'm gonna go back to my, close all this. I go into index of this. Okay, so if I do, so we want display flex, and then we want align items start. Let's see that that's okay. So if I do save, where's there? Deflex align deflex align items start. So if I do refresh, okay, so it's moved it up. Okay, so that's working. All right. So the next thing, okay, let's add a background image here now. So I go back and to main.css. What's this? Main.css. Okay, we're gonna just add background image. Right, so background. Okay, I'm just gonna do background image, and it's URL, and we're just gonna add the header image to there as well, just a bit lazy, but because it's a large image, it will be just right for this. Yeah, ideally we need a new image of clouds, but as this is a big image, I can get the clouds to appear on full width and without showing anything else. So if I just save, okay, so I got the cloud. Okay, so it's full width, so I got cloud there in the background. Okay, so to recap what I just done on the navbar, I've added the display flex and align start. Now, on the Bootstrap site, if you go to the menu, and on the side menu you should have utilities, and under utilities you got all these different classes that you can use directly on a HTML element. So we just use the flex element. So the way we use the flex element is, with a deflex, and then that will give it a flex, display flex. Then you can use the different types of flex inline. This is for small, so for different breakpoints as well. So you would give deflex, you can give these type of combinations of flex elements. So here it's saying display flex row. So this is a flex row, and the items are just placed normally. And in the second one is flex row reverse. So the flow is left to right, here is right to left. So yeah, so you can, if you go to utilities and flex, you can find more about it. And there's also utilities and borders. You find about borders, then there's margins and padding somewhere as well, spacing, vertical line, display, float, interactions, position, shadows, sizing, spacing. Okay, so these are all the utility classes that you can use, and that's what we just used. Okay, let's add some content. Okay, let's add some content now. Let me just see. I'm going to the index.html and we're going to add some content. I just minimize that so I know where I am. Okay, so I'm okay, just move that tab. Okay, so tab. Just internet. Okay, so tab. Okay. All right. So I'm going to add some content now. I'm going to give that class a container. Class equals container. Okay, and we would want to also give it. I think we'll leave it for now, but we may need to say we want to give the text as white because so there is a class that you can do that text white. Okay, so okay, so next we're going to have a h2 tab and start your adventure here. Now next we're going to have a p element and then put some Lorem text, again, okay, so we'll do a refresh, save, and refresh. Okay, so I got some text there that I can have a look at. So now okay, so where are we? Okay, so we're here. Now what we also can do is we can add some margins. Okay, so we can add some top and bottom margins using utility classes. So it's margin top and dash, and we always say we want 5, and margin bottom dash 5. So this should give some margin at top and bottom. Okay, so if I do save, okay, so it's given margins at top and bottom. Okay, I just added some paddings as well. So so what if I inspect it? So it's if we go into the elements, computed, all right. So it's given a padding of 48, a margin of 48, and left, right 16. So when it's a point, it has different spacing. So so there is a set range from 1 to 5. So depending on that range, you can change it in the utilities. So I just wanted to show that it's working there. Okay, so next what we need is to the container max width at the moment. Let me just see. Okay, so this, we're gonna make this on 800. At currently it's let me see, the max, the width of this is computed. Okay, so max width is, where's the width? Okay, so what we're looking at is 1,200. Okay, so the you know, it's growing to whatever the full width is for that breakpoint. So what we need to do is we need to change the container width to 800 for anything larger than medium-sized screens, or from medium-sized screens. Okay, so we need to visit the constant variables, and we need to look for container width. Container. Okay, so I'm gonna pass it. Oops. Grid container, right? Container max width. Okay, so this is what we need. Right. If I change that to 800, change that to 800, change that to 800, change all to 800, and I save it. And now if I enlarge it, okay, so this is, it's changed for the for larger screens, for smaller screens. Okay, so it's resizing, then it fixes that. See, yep, that's what we want. Okay, next we're gonna add in a row of a div with class row, and we're gonna say column, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna be adding some cards, 3 cards. Okay, so column, and we want these cards to be full width on smaller screens. Okay, so so let's right now I'm going to go into Bootstrap now. Let me just save that just in case. Right, I'm going to go into Bootstrap, and I'm going to go into the menu, and I'm going to go into components, and I'm going to look for card. Right now I need a basic card. Okay, that's not with a button as well, so let me, there's one right at the bottom. Okay, this will do. Right, so I'm going to copy this, copy the markup for this. So it's got a little header, and it's got a button there and some text area there. We're going to have 3 of these. Okay, so I'm going to copy that and go back and just paste it in there. And okay, so that okay, so let's do some styling for this. So we've got some text there. So now to this we're gonna give it a background, a secondary color green. Okay, so it's we can use the, I think it's the BG background color, which is you can give primary or secondary. So in your themes, the theming colors, you can use a BG dash primary, secondary, and various other theming colors that you have. So I'm going to use the secondary color here, which should be a green. So I'm going to also give the BG there as well at the main container. So I can so just give it pg dash secondary. So do that. So the whole thing is green now. So what I can do is I'm gonna give a transparency to this color. So what I need to do is go into variables. Right now I'm gonna do a little trick with with the colors. Right now I've got so I've got a color definitions here. So I'm going to add a green with short for opacity. Okay, so this is going to be a color with an opacity. So I'm going to give it, let me see, RGBA, and it's going to be the same green, but it's not sure this is going to work, but let me just see. Okay, so that with 0.3 and to that. So this is going to be RGB with a green with an opacity of 0.3. So green opacity. So I'm going to add that color to the primary, secondary. So I've got primary, secondary. Right now I can add a variable for a new theme. So I can just put $secondary and I say op for opacity, and we say, and we defined it as secondary. So it is green opacity. I think it's, let me just go back up. So we're giving it as green op. So it's going to be a green dash op. Let me just check that. Green up. Okay, so now I need to add that as well here. So if I go I put secondary up. Green up. So if I go back into the HTML, now we're gonna put in a new theme here. So it's background secondary up and background secondary up. So for opacity, so that should, okay, so that's given an opacity there. Okay, so if I expand it up, so it's given an opacity, right? So I want to make it a bit more lighter. So if I go back in, I mean, add a bit more contrast to it. So what I can do is I can change the opacity to say 4. Let me just see what that happens. Okay, so yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Right, so what I can do is add in another 3 boxes there, 3 cards. Right, so just do copy. save. It should have 3 cards there now. Okay, so it's, if I go, so I need to additionally, so we need to give it full width on only on small screens and put it on three cards on a row on other larger screens. So we need to go into the HTML and just gonna add comment body and think. So I'm gonna secondary. Okay, so I'm gonna add so what I need to do is add a col small so that it's only full length for full width for small screens, but fit 3 cards on a row on larger screens. So I need to go back in and put it in col for the cards, col SM here, and in 3 places, and then col SM, and let me just move that there. It's col SM, it's col SM. Let us save. Okay, so now it looks much better. So I've got 3 in a row for large screens and smaller screens, and it will go full length here. Let me just see. Okay, so let's add some margins and padding to the card. Okay, so let me see. What was that? Okay, go into there and what's so is margin right? We do margin right, and we give it a 3, and margin bottom we give a 2. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay, so that's margin. Now we need to give that to all of them, I think. Yeah. So there, now we need to give a gutter gx1. See what that looks like. Okay, so it's given the gutter edges of 1 unit. So this is looking better. So let's maximize that. So yep, the menu is correct place, and we've got the cards all lined up, and it's resized it properly. Just gonna add in some text, I think, make it sort of complete. That's a feature. So this special deals popular locations and rights only. Let's just add some text and I would just say add some text there as well. Rights only. Rights only. special divs. Okay, so I think that's yep. So that's our fully functional website. So it looks okay. Okay, let's test out that theming. Okay, go back into variables. So let's just change the theming colors and see if that's working. I think it might be broken. Let me just see. Okay, so theming. So if I change secondary color to red, okay, so the gradient on the header has changed. Okay, so that's the primary color in the blue, and that's the secondary color is the red. Now that should also be secondary color, so it hasn't changed that. So what the problem is, I think, okay, the secondary, so this is using a class of secondary op. Okay, so that is, okay, so all right, that should be the secondary. All right, I think what I need to do is just put in dollar. We need to put RGBA, and we need secondary color, and we need to give an opacity of, what was the opacity when I 0.4. Okay, so that's okay, so secondary op. Okay, so I need to change that as well. That should be, it's not green op, I need secondary op. Secondary op. Okay, so that's, I think I left at a point. That should be, yeah, that's much better. Okay, so that's, if I do full screen, okay, I've got blue, primary, secondary, and the content area secondary, and the buttons is primary, blue. Alright, so if I change the to a gray 600, and I change that to a blue, so alright, okay, so that's the gray, yeah, gray buttons and gray gradient. So I change that to a orange. Yep, change the orange there, orange buttons. And full size, just to make sure, yep. So, I just created a new theme there, and I just created a secondary color with an opacity. So if I wanted a primary with opacity, I'll just create another one called primary-op, and just put into an RGB function with an opacity, and that will give it a opaque opacity color. Okay, so that's how you do theming in Bootstrap SAS. So it's much better than using the standard version of Bootstrap. You got so much functionality and features to customize it the way you want it, and this is just touching the tip of the iceberg. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.